Rink Wide Vancouver. Pre-game, post-game, every game presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat back once again with another edition of the pre-game show as the Canucks head into the Big Apple, NYC. JPat to the world's greatest arena, Madison Square Garden, always an event when the Canucks face off against the Rangers.
Yeah, and of course you go back to 1994, there's strong ties between these two organizations. Usually the game at Madison Square is the featured game on any stop through New York City. Of course, the events of the last 10 days sort of changed that storyline, and the Canucks will face Bo Horvat and the New York Islanders tomorrow, but they're going to have their hands full against a Rangers team that's coming off one of the games of the year in the hockey world the other night, a 5-4 overtime victory over the Calgary Flames, hard-fought, big hits, and the Rangers are certainly going to give the Canucks everything they can handle. Of course, the Canucks coming off a 5-4 overtime game of their own, coming up on the short end against the Devils across the river.
Let's get to the lineup change, which is presented by Delaney's OK Tire out there on Fraser Highway in Langley. Doesn't look like much is going to happen in terms of changes up front, JPat, but a change in goal?
Yeah, Spencer Martin, he gets the nod, and this is a big ask for him, obviously. He hasn't won a hockey game since December 27th. That was against the San Jose Sharks. These are not the Sharks. These are the Rangers. They can score. Again, they got 5 the other night against Calgary, and Spencer Martin has been thrown to the Wolves. It's been a tough go for him in the month of January, but maybe the break and a little bit of time away, just clear his head and come back and see what he can do tonight. Otherwise, looks like it's going to be the same 18 skaters. The only change we may see, and we got a glimpse of this in a practice yesterday at MSG, already a promotion for Vasily Podkolzin. Looks like he may replace Dakota Joshua on the left side on the second line with JT Miller and Connor Garland. Top line's going to stay intact. Anthony Beauvillier, the new guy, with Elias Pettersson and Andrei Kuzmenko.
The Canucks got a point in New Jersey and liked the effort, but still lots to clean up, especially against a powerhouse like the Rangers.
Yeah, they got to get the panic out of their game, and we saw it, the 3 goals in 50 seconds, turnovers and mistakes. The Rangers will make you pay. So every night's a new opportunity for Rick Tocchet to learn a little bit more about his team, and I think he'd like to see his guys play with just a little bit more composure. But hey, the Rangers can pressure you. They can make you make some of those mistakes. So we'll see if the Vancouver Canucks can up their game tonight against the Blue Shirts.
Newcomer Anthony Beauvillier is in a bit of a drought right now. Would like to see him chip in offensively.
Yeah, and look, I thought his debut was fine the other night. He had 2 shots and 5 attempts, and on that line, they made some things happen, but there does have to be a scoring element. This is a guy that's been brought in. He's not Bo Horvat, who got his first as an Islander last night against Seattle. Maybe Beauvillier will get his first, or maybe he'll save it against his former team tomorrow night. Whatever the case, he's got 9 games in the National Hockey League, 8 with the Islanders and 1 now with the Canucks without scoring. But beyond that, just 1 goal in his last 17 hockey games. So again, as the evaluation process continues for Rick Tocchet and this new coaching staff, Anthony Beauvillier wants to put his best foot forward, but he also has to find a way to make something happen.
Tocchet challenged his depth players to step up, and they did that against New Jersey. Want to see that continue.
Yeah, Phil DiGiuseppe scored for the first time in a couple of years. He's a former Ranger. Of course, Curtis Lazar hadn't scored since the 3rd game of the season. He found the back of the net the other night against New Jersey. Before that, it was Dakota Joshua with a couple of goals in the first few games under Rick Tocchet. In all, 11 different guys have scored for the new head coach in just 4 games. So Rick Tocchet does seem to be reaching some of his depth players. Now I'd like to see Vasily Podkolzin added to that list. I'd like to see Anthony Beauvillier added to that list as well.
JT Miller facing off against his former team, and he could reach a milestone tonight.
Yeah, and a big one. Halfway to 1,000. He's sitting on 499 career points. So, yeah, the big stage, MSG, place that he broke into the National Hockey League. His first NHL franchise, of course, was the Rangers. They drafted him. He was the first rounder way back when. And look, it hasn't been the same year for JT Miller that it was last year with his 99 points, but he can still be productive and a guy that can raise his game. Remember, last year, scored an overtime winner against the New York Rangers in Vancouver. I don't know if it'll take overtime, but wouldn't be surprised to see JT find the score sheet and get to that 500th National Hockey League point, and that would be a nice feather in his cap.
Let's focus in on the Rangers for just a moment. You talk about OT winners. The Rangers got that against Calgary the other night in a 5-4 victory. They're also 6-2-2 in their last 10. Red hot right now.
They are. And if you go back even further than that, if you go back to early December, They are the third best team in the National Hockey League by points percentage, which may catch some people by surprise because they're not atop their division. They're in the battle. They look like they're going to be a playoff team, certainly. And in fact, they look like they're on a collision course with New Jersey in the opening round, the way things sit right now. But the last couple of months, only a couple of teams in the National Hockey League have produced points at a better clip than the New York Rangers. So that's why we say the Canucks are going to have their hands full here. Rangers are playing .731 hockey over their last 25 games.
You got to keep your head up when Jacob Trouba is on the ice. His latest victim was Nazem Kadri the other night against the Flames.
Oh boy, they're calling him the true train, I guess it is. And yeah, what an open ice collision. I think Jacob Trouba is probably the hardest hitter in the National Hockey League these days. Yep. And you have to keep your head up and know when he is out there on the ice. Of course, he's not alone. This Rangers team defensively, it's Trouba, it's Adam Fox, it's Keandre Miller, on and on it goes. And of course, in front of Igor Shesterkin, who had the night off the other night, it was former Canuck Jaro Halak who posted the victory against the Flames. So it's supposed to be Shesterkin in goal. So again, the challenge is they just get that much greater for the Vancouver Canucks. And only the Boston Bruins have surrendered fewer goals this season than the New York Rangers. So again, the Canucks got 4 the other night in New Jersey. Usually 4 should get you something. It got them a single point. We'll see if they can get the guns blazing, though, because we know Igor Shesterkin on his own can be lights out and can be a difference maker. So, yeah, when Trouba's on the ice, keep your head up. But it's not just Jacob Trouba. This is a pretty solid and deep defense core for the New York Rangers.
Yeah, and offensively, they are stacked up front.
Yeah, and it's all those familiar names, right? This guy's Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin, who we talked about JT Miller sitting on a milestone. Panarin at 199 career goals. So if he scores tonight, he gets to 200. And we know a lot of guys have cashed in on milestone goals against the Vancouver Canucks over the years. Chris Kreider, big body. He's a force on the power play, certainly. You know, Adam Fox has become one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League, a Norris Trophy winner. He's got 49 points. He's tied for 4th among NHL blue liners in scoring. So the Canucks saw Dougie Hamilton the other night. Canucks, of course, have Quinn Hughes. So lots of offense from the back end. But Adam Fox certainly generates for the New York Rangers. And then you got the youth movement as well. And it was Alexis Lafreniere that scored the winner the other night. Capo Caco. Philip Hedl. So this is a Rangers team that is getting it from the veterans, but also there's sort of that next layer of offense, and some of those younger players seem to be finding their games.
Let's get to the stat that stands out. That's presented by Jason Hominick at jason.mortgage.
Yeah, and for me, it's Philip Hedl. And remember, last year down the stretch around this time, in fact, ahead of the trade deadline, Philip Hedl's name was up there an awful lot in talks about JT Miller, perhaps, for Philip Hedl and other pieces. Maybe the Canucks missed the boat there. If, in fact, there was a package, I think at the time there was some concern that that wasn't enough. Well, all of a sudden, Philip Hedl scored twice the other night against Calgary. This guy's got 6 goals in his last 4 games. He's got 18 goals on the season. He's only 23 years of age, a former first-rounder. It's taken him a little bit of time, but boy, he has found his footing. And all of a sudden, he's holding the hot hand here. The All-Star break didn't stop him. 6 goals in his last 4 games. Keep an eye on Philip Hedl. That's a stat that stands out to me, and it is brought to you by our friend Jason Hominick at jason.mortgage.
Let's get to my Bodog Best Bet. I missed out on my last one, but I've been pretty good as of late. Looking to get a W tonight, and I'm looking at Anthony Beauvillier. Anytime goal scorer, plus 350. Love the value there. He's due, JPat. Might be jumping the gun a little bit because, of course, he's got his former team coming up next on the schedule, but he loves New York. He's a New Yorker. Well, at least he's a Vancouverite now, but he was a New Yorker, and he's going to score in his old town. I think Anthony Beauvillier lights the lamp tonight and gets me some money.
I don't want to throw cold water on this one, but he's 0 for 3. He's played the Rangers 3 times already this season. Nothing to show for it, but maybe 4. The 4th time will be the charm. Who knows? It does kind of feel like he is due. And again, he had some opportunities the other night. Certainly familiar with the big stage of MSG playing for the New York Islanders all those years. So we'll see what happens. And again, anytime you're playing with Elias Pettersson and Andrei Kuzmenko, you know that there are going to be some scoring chances coming your way. Question is, can he pull the trigger? Can he convert? And I guess for your sake, I hope he can.
And the power play, of course, as well. Let's get to the best part of the pregame, though, JPat. Time for you to tell us who is going to do something in this game.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of Vancouver Canucks, but one name that hasn't come up yet is Brock Boeser. And that's because Brock has gone ice cold again. He's gone 7 games without scoring. Remember, he scored that late game goal in Carolina at the tail end of the Gauntlet road trip, and that got the game to a shootout. And the Canucks were able to walk out of Carolina with a surprising victory that afternoon. But that's the last time Brock Boeser has put a puck in the net. So 7 games without a goal, 1 goal, that's it, his lone goal in the last 10 outings. And guys like Podkolzin and Joshua, they're getting bumps up the lineup. Brock Boeser stuck sort of on that third line, playing with Sheldon Dries, and it may be Dakota Joshua on the other side tonight. The other part is, I kind of thought that maybe with Bo Horvat out of the picture now, we'd see Brock Boeser get an opportunity back on the top unit power play, but it really has been Bo for Bo. Anthony Beauvillier taking Bo Horvat's spot, and I know it's a left-handed shot versus a righty in Brock Boeser, but Boeser not seeing much power play time. He has 1 power play point in his last 25 hockey games, and you just wonder, if they're trying to move him, you'd think you'd want to put Brock Boeser in a position to succeed. If you want other teams to bite on this player and think that, hey, maybe he's finding his game again, put Brock Boeser in a position to succeed. So we'll see what happens. Rick Tocchet still trying to figure out who's who and what he's got to work with, but I am curious to see if there's anything they can do to get Brock Boeser going, because he is in a rut right now, and you'd like to see him do something, maybe step up in the bright lights in the big city, New York, see if Brock Boeser can do something to help the Vancouver Canucks tonight.
Let's see if the Canucks can take a bite out of the Big Apple and get a W at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. This has been another edition of the Rink-Wide Vancouver podcast, presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink-Wide is the show that always scores.